Dixie Decker here, Queen of Student Housing, and today I want to chat a little bit about some mythbusters in student housing. I think that's the biggest challenge with my niche, is that you've already made your mind up before you even hear what student housing is. So a couple things, and I have a list over here on my computer so I don't forget to cover a couple of things with you today, but a couple things that people tell me about student housing is I would never do student housing because they're animals. So they are not animals in my properties. The cool part about that is when I show people what I do, they are shocked that everything I have is granite, hardwood floors, tile, nice appliances. Your shoes don't stick to the floors from the beer they've spilt, because we are having all the parents co-sign and the kids all on one lease. So if you're a landlord right now or a want-to-be landlord, you are probably thinking you are going to have one income earner or two on your lease. So how many do you think I have that is securing my one property? I could have 2, 3, 4 students plus their parents. Some people have 2 sets of parents. So my question or challenge to you is, who do you think is cleaning these houses for me and making sure they stay nice? It's who's paying those bills. All those mamas and daddies are coming and cleaning these houses so that I don't have animals on my hands. My houses are drop dead gorgeous and I don't have to worry about it. So that's number one. Mythbuster is that college kids are animals and I would never want a house that had kids living in it. All right, so the second thing with the mythbusters in student housing is, Dixie, I don't want vacancies because kids only go to college for 9 months, right? Okay guys, I have no vacancies. Why? I write a 12-month lease, whether they think they want a 12-month lease or not. That is the standard around here. So here's how I sell that to the parents that you already think are going to challenge me, which I'm going to tell you in reality they don't challenge it. So the way that goes, if it were to happen, the question you have for me is, don't the parents want to only do a 9-month lease because they don't want to pay any other time? Well, the truth is the parents have to take a vacation to come down here and move their kids out of college in the middle of May when classes end, and they have to pack their stuff up, put it in a storage unit, and take it home. Then they have their summertime with their college student, and guess what they have to do again in August? They have to pack that same stuff up and bring it back down, move it back into an apartment or a dorm or a house or whatever. So I basically just tell mom and dad, hey, the cost of this house for your kid to live here is less than what you're paying for the dorms for 9 months. So that's kind of how I set my rent rates, is I make sure the parents benefit by living in my properties. Meaning what they're paying for 9 months there, they're paying that or less to have my house for 12 months. So I don't go vacant in the summer. I let them sublease if they want to another student. I tell them I won't find that person, but if you want to, you can. So I have no vacancies, guys. How many of you landlords can say you have no vacancies? We can in student housing because we set it up properly from the beginning. So that's mythbuster number 2. We are not vacant in the summer when they go home, because they don't go home. They keep the lease for 12 months. They leave their stuff there. They come and go. They go back and visit mom and dad. Some of them have summer classes. Some of them have summer jobs. So there's a lot of reasons they may stay, but the most beneficial piece, remember, is mom and dad don't have to take vacation days twice to move kids back and forth. So that's number 2. I'm going to check my list over here so I don't forget anything. Oh, the third one, this is a good mythbuster for student housing, is Dixie. Student housing is huge apartment buildings. Well, that can be correct. And if you've got big, deep pockets, yeah, you can throw up an apartment building. I work in an area that has huge apartment buildings that you guys are probably familiar with them, O'Reilly Auto Parts. So if you've heard of them, that's who I compete with in my area, is that kind of money. They've got automotive repair part places all over the country, and they're throwing up huge apartment buildings right here in my hometown. So I'm not talking about those guys. I started off in 2013 buying little houses. That's it, those little houses in between those apartment buildings, so that I could turn those into student housing. That's just a term I use. They are single family houses with one lease on them, and I put college kids in there. So that's the cool part. You don't have to think you have to be, big bucks to be in student housing. You can start with little houses. Yes, you can do it with apartment buildings, you can do it with duplexes and triplexes, but what if it was just so simple, it was just a house we're talking about? Does that make it a little less scary for you? And those things are spinning off tons of cash flow. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but the cash flow on these is double, triple, quadruple what you're getting when you plug in single family rentals with single family people or single income earners, double income earner families. So we're not stereotyping, we're just pricing our rentals by the room, but we put it all on one lease for people so that they're jointly responsible for the full rent. And that goes back to number 2, that helps us have no vacancies because everybody's responsible for all of the rent. All right, so you got that one. They are not big apartment buildings. They can be, but the way I started was a bunch of little houses, and I love my houses. Okay, oh, this is a good one. This is Mythbuster number 4 in student housing. People come and they see my houses here in Springfield, Missouri, and they leave and they call me and they say, I can't do this where I'm at because houses cost too much money. Well, I'm sitting here in my office today chatting with you, and this is a $500,000 property. That's what it appraised for. That's not what I bought it for, but that's what it appraised for. And it still cash flows. So I'm getting about $600 a room, and if this was a student housing rental, which is in the primary district for it, but we decided to put our office in it, it is 6 bedrooms total at $600 a piece, and they get nothing included for that. So I cash flow on this, whether my office sits in here or I put college kids in it. Now, I'm not buying everything at $500,000 by any means, but amongst your houses that are too expensive, you have the ones that also fit the model. And the model for student housing is, I don't care what you pay for the house, I only care what kind of payment you have on that house. So if you take it over on owner financing or a lease option, or you have a private lender in place, I don't care what you paid for the house. I only care what your monthly payment is, because all we care about in student housing is cash flow. Cash flow is king in this business because you're getting so much more of it than regular single families. I hope that makes sense to you, because you're going to challenge me on it later, and I'm going to come back with the same thing. I have expensive houses too, but I'm not buying all of those expensive houses. The best ones, of course, are the ones you're in the mid 100s and you've got 3 or 4 bedrooms in them. That's absolutely the best. But you may have to go outside of your campus a few blocks to find those prices in your area. So for us, the same thing applies. Right next to campus, everything is more expensive. That's just the way that it goes. The cool thing is the zoning is so old on some of those, you may have a higher zoning than single family residential. And we can talk more about that, what opportunities that allows you to have in order to cash flow more. We call that highest and best use around here. So that's one tip, is don't tell me your houses cost too much, you can't do it. Because my other challenge with that point is they're probably paying more money to live in your dorms where you're at. So our kids pay maybe at most $690 per person to live in the dorms per month. I have some people working in my mastermind group that are getting $1,000 a head from people living in their houses, apartments per month. So obviously you can spend more money on a house when you're getting $1,000 a bedroom. So that's one thing. Houses cost too much, so that's why we can't do student housing. Not true. The next thing, number 5 Mythbuster in student housing is, I don't want student housing because I don't want to be a slumlord. I don't either, guys. Straight up, I won't do it. I don't do slumlord buildings. I don't do slumlord houses. I don't have slumlord tenants. I am charging high-end prices for high-end product, and I'm getting quality tenants with parents paying the bills. Those parents have been saving to pay for college since these kids were born. I got 2 of those kids. And since the day they were born, I've continued to say, how the hell am I going to pay for college? That is so expensive nowadays. So you have to start saving from day 1, birth to 18, okay? So these people are highly qualified tenants. And would you fall over in your chair right now if I told you I have never ran one background check or credit check on anybody that lives in my houses? How much time would that free up for you if you're a landlord right now? I know you're spending hours and hours doing credit checks and background. And you have to read those, and they're many pages long, and then you have to make a decision. And sometimes you don't trust an assistant to make that decision, so you are still grinding every day in your job, self-employed, to figure out who can live in your houses. I don't do that. I don't roll that way. I'm not a slumlord. I am proud of our properties and the product that we have people living in. So I challenge you to not be a slumlord to make money. You don't have to be. Okay, so the last myth buster is evictions. College kids are broke. They have no credit. They're not going to pay you. You're going to have tons of evictions. I have never had to evict a kid or student living in student housing, as I call it. And as a landlord, that's another thing that makes me very proud of this niche, is that I don't have evictions. I will tell you, I had to go to court this week over an eviction on a single family house with single family people living in it. And I burned 4 hours of my day sitting there, tortured by other people's problems that didn't apply to me until they got to me and my eviction case. If I had to do that every day to make money and call myself a landlord, I would throw the cards in and fold. I would not be in this business. That is not a positive environment. It is not something that makes me excited to go to work every day. It's actually why I chose student housing. I thought, there's no way, as business as I am and as much as I like to do things right, if it's Christmas time and it's 20 degrees in Springfield, Missouri, I cannot evict somebody who maybe lost their job and has kids at home and maybe they just fell into a bad situation. I'm like, I'll just let them live there forever. So I knew I didn't have the heart to just evict people with their sad stories. So with student housing, you don't have evictions like you do in regular landlord life. And I would not do this business if that's what I had to do to make money. So that was my last myth buster for student housing, is that I don't have evictions for students because the parents are paying the bills and everybody's on one lease. The kids, the parents, so I have multiple guarantors on one lease, which protects me or makes me less risky in the investment world. So if you're a landlord out there, tell me if you think that is the lifestyle you would like to have as a landlord.